Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today you are in for another treat. So, let's get started. Cultivation was the art of gathering energy within one's spirit to reach heights unseen, a 1,000-year path to immortality, the pinnacle of existence. Yet, only a select few ever achieved such a feat. Most never had the chance, born as mere mortals, unable to sense the chi around them. But on rare occasions, blessings appeared in the form of gifted individuals. A man entered a dimly lit room where his wife had just given birth. Overcome with emotion, he gently asked her what they would name the child. She smiled weakly and whispered, "Lu Ji." Their precious baby had been named. Years passed, and the world proved to be a cruel place. 20 years later, a young man was thrown to the ground, his battered body evidence of a lost battle. An old man announced that the victor was Yen Li. In this world, the strong ruled, and only those with talent gained power that dictated everything. Yen Li, arrogant and overconfident, looked down at his fallen opponent, calling him junior brother before mocking his poor performance. He taunted the beaten man, asking if he had already given up, even when Yen Li still had so many pointers to give. Another disciple approached Yen Li, sneering at the defeated man. He scoffed at how pathetic Ji was, barely managing to withstand 5 blows. Urging Yen Li to leave, he dismissed Ji as unworthy of their time. Barely conscious, Ji lay on the ground, his vision blurred. Confusion clouded his mind. He struggled to remember where he was. Faint echoes of a memory surfaced, his mother calling him their precious Lu Ji. His friends hurried to his side, lifting his weakened form. Concerned about his condition, they decided to take him to the old master, fearing he had hit his head too hard. Ji, however, felt an overwhelming sense of disorientation. Who were these people? Where was he? And who was Lu Ji? Pain pulsed through his body as he slowly opened his eyes. Every inch of him ached. A calm voice advised him to remain still, as his wounds had yet to heal. His gaze shifted toward an elderly man who had just opened a small pot, releasing a thick golden smoke. Steam rose as the old master retrieved a pill from within and instructed Ji to open his mouth. Too dazed to resist, he complied and swallowed the pill. The master assured him that the chi-infused medicine would heal his injuries soon. Ji, still bewildered, mustered the strength to ask where he was and who the old man was. A frown creased the master's brow. The boy's confusion was unsettling. After a moment of thought, he deduced that Ji's injuries must have been worse than expected, perhaps even affecting his memory. He informed Ji that he was a disciple of Cloudy Peak sect. Ji stared blankly, unsure whether Lu Ji was truly his name. The old master, sensing his turmoil, advised him to rest and attempt to recall his past. If his memories failed to return, he promised to concoct another pill to aid him. With that, he exited the room, leaving Ji alone with his thoughts. Ji gazed at the ceiling, trying to piece everything together. The last thing he remembered was studying for his chemistry class. Then darkness. Had he died? A sudden memory surfaced, his mother's voice warning him not to run so recklessly. A child, presumably himself, raced toward the forest despite his mother's pleas to return, as it was dangerous. Then a wolf appeared. The child's blood ran cold as he cried out for his mother. She clutched him tightly, both frozen in fear as the beast approached. Just as the wolf lunged, an invisible force sent it crashing into a tree. A cultivator had appeared, effortlessly dispatching the creature. He warned them that it was dangerous for mortals to wander so far from safety, and urged them to return to their village. The mother expressed her sincere gratitude while the child watched the cultivator in awe. As Ji processed the memory, realization dawned upon him. He was in a cultivation world, just like those he had read about in comics. But something felt off. He wasn't merely witnessing Lu Ji's memories, he was living them. He recalled how, like every child blessed with chi, Ji had joined a sect to pursue cultivation. Yet, instead of rising to prominence, he had become nothing more than a punching bag. Sparring after sparring, Ji had been told to quit before his inevitable death, his weakness bringing shame to the sect. In the background, someone had always been shouting for him to be taken to the old master yet again. His face, bruised and bloodied, had become a familiar sight. Ji had never possessed the talent to be strong. Only the old master had shown him kindness, treating him like a grandson. And now, someone else had taken his place. The new Ji, no, the soul that had taken over Ji's body, considered the possibility that he had died from a heart attack while studying. He sat up, stretching, when he noticed something astonishing. It had barely been an hour, yet his injuries had already healed. He marveled at the world's magic, realizing its potential. But something was missing: technology. Curious, he scanned the room, opening the pot and reaching for a book on the shelf. It was a tome on the fundamentals of alchemy. As he read, he learned that alchemists did not fight. Instead, they healed and contributed to society. If this world operated like the comics he had read, offending a cultivator could result in immediate death. Without power, he would be defenseless, just as Ji had been. But what if he took a different path? With his knowledge of chemistry, he could revolutionize alchemy, bringing new advancements to the world. He could become rich, selling pills, and living comfortably while avoiding deadly battles. He had no idea if he could ever return to his original world, but survival here became his priority. Just then, the old master returned, eyeing Ji with curiosity. The young man turned to him, determination flickering in his gaze. He bowed deeply and requested to be taught alchemy. The old master's eyes widened in surprise. After a brief silence, he finally spoke. "You can't." Ji's grand plan shattered in an instant. Dumbfounded, he stared at the old master, unable to process what he had just heard. Ji asked why he could not become an alchemist, and the old man replied that alchemy was a lifelong path, requiring dedication. He did not wish to take on an apprentice who was not serious. Ji argued that he was serious, though he understood why the old man would doubt him. After all, the real Ji had never shown any interest in alchemy. However, the current Ji needed a means to earn money if he wanted to survive in such a dangerous world. Ji explained that the sparring match had opened his eyes. He had seen the truth. He lacked talent in cultivation, but he had discovered a new path for himself in alchemy, a way he could still improve and make something of himself. He bowed deeply, requesting the old man to take him as his apprentice. The old man studied him before asking what alchemy truly meant to him. Ji recalled the book's explanation and replied that alchemy was the craft of refining, transforming herbs and resources into elixirs and pills. The old man remained silent. Realizing his answer was too basic, Ji questioned himself. What did alchemy really mean to him? What could he do with it in a world of magic and cultivation? After a moment of thought, Ji answered that alchemy was the study of nature, a way to understand how the world worked. To him, it was a path of science, one he could use to bring development and technology to a world filled with magic. The old man, surprised, admitted that he had misjudged Ji. Perhaps the path of alchemy was indeed meant for him. He told Ji that if he was truly determined, he must kowtow 3 times and formally acknowledge him as his master. Without hesitation, Ji knelt and performed the ritual, officially becoming the old man's disciple. Satisfied, the old man began Ji's first lesson. He explained that the foundation of alchemy lay in understanding ingredients, their properties, potency, purity, and the techniques required to refine them. Once Ji grasped this knowledge, he would learn how to use a cauldron to refine pills. Handing him a book on the fundamentals of alchemy, the old man instructed him to study the recipes for 3 basic pills. Once he could successfully refine all 3, he would be considered a junior alchemist. Ji scanned the book, noting that the recipes seemed centuries old. He wondered why no one had improved upon them and voiced his thoughts. The old man sternly replied that the recipes were created by their venerable ancestors and tampering with them would be foolish. Ji, unconvinced, suggested they might be outdated. The old man was taken aback, sensing something unusual about Ji since the sparring match. 2 hours later, Jai closed the book and announced that he had memorized it. The old man was shocked. It should have taken days. To test him, he asked about the properties of glacial spirit poison. Without hesitation, Jai explained that it acted on the heart and body, slowing them down until the victim succumbed to heart failure. However, it could also be used to counteract potent spirit poisons by slowing their spread and reducing fever. The old man, in the middle of sipping his tea, nearly choked. Jai was correct. The old man asked if he had memorized everything. Jai simply replied, "Yes, master." Hearing himself being addressed as master after so many years was refreshing. He wondered if Jai had been secretly trained in alchemy. Jai denied it, explaining that he was simply good at memorizing information. In reality, years of cramming for exams had sharpened his memory. They moved on to the next lesson, learning to use the cauldron. The old man asked why cauldrons were used in alchemy. Jai answered that their shape allowed for even heat distribution and that they could hold a significant amount of ingredients. The old man nodded, adding that size mattered little. Many alchemists used small cauldrons with expanded interiors. However, the true reason for using cauldrons was their ability to channel and contain qi. Demonstrating, the old man conjured a warm blue flame in his palm, amazing Jai. He had no idea what cultivation realm his master belonged to. The old man then explained that 3 factors determined an alchemist's talent: qi sensitivity, qi manipulation, and luck. Jai was puzzled. The old man elaborated that even the most skilled alchemists experience failure, and only the heavens could determine when one would succeed. In Jai's mind, if pill-making was like a chemical reaction, success should depend on optimal conditions rather than luck. He believed he could find a way to ensure consistency. Since luck was beyond their control, the old man said they focused on refining qi sensitivity and control. He also emphasized the importance of a good cauldron, which guided qi and essence inward. To demonstrate, he activated his cauldron, filling the room with a green mist before forming a glowing green orb in his hand. He explained that it was a simple qi-gathering pill meant to replenish one's qi reserves. He then instructed Jai to try making one himself. Jai stared at the pill, lost in thought. The old man, noticing his hesitation, asked what was wrong. Jai hesitantly inquired how to ignite the flame. The old man sighed, massaging his temples. He realized that Jai's path in alchemy would be a long one. Jai had never realized how expensive alchemy could be. Now, in order to learn it, he needed money, yet to earn money he had to first master alchemy. It was a vicious cycle, one that wasted herbs and favored only the most talented disciples. The sect provided the best resources to those with talent, while the outer disciples, like him, were left to struggle, overworked, and underpaid. Jai barely had enough to afford food, let alone save up to leave the sect. From his fragmented memories, he recalled the existence of the Spirit Herb Garden, a restricted area accessible only to inner disciples. It was rumored to house herbs so rare that selling them could provide enough wealth for a lifetime. If he could gain access, he would have all the ingredients he needed to refine pills without worrying about expenses. As he mulled over his predicament, a voice interrupted his thoughts. A fellow outer disciple, Su Lin, approached him, noting his grim expression and asking if he had eaten something bad. Jai, recognizing the name from his vague memories, simply replied that he was still recovering from a spar. Lin reminded him to keep his head down and avoid drawing attention, warning that certain people in the sect, those with the Thunder Phoenix bloodline, would beat him down if provoked. Jai already knew that. It was precisely why he wanted to leave. If those disciples came after him again, he would suffer another humiliating defeat, something he wanted to avoid at all costs. Instead of dwelling on it, he turned to Lin and asked how long he had been in the sect. Lin responded that it had been nearly a decade. Jai found it odd that Lin had stayed in the outer sect for so long. By all accounts, Lin was even weaker than Jai, yet he remained. That meant he had found a way to sustain himself within the sect despite lacking talent. Curious, Jai inquired if Lin knew anyone who worked in the spirit herb garden. Lin was immediately suspicious and asked why he wanted to know. That response confirmed Jai's suspicions. Lin had connections within the garden, which likely meant he was involved in smuggling herbs. Seeing an opportunity, Jai revealed a small pouch filled with pills he had successfully refined. To an outer sect disciple like Lin, such pills were nearly impossible to obtain, so it would naturally appear as if Jai had stolen them. Playing into that assumption, Jai proposed a deal. If Lin supplied him with herbs, he would provide him with 5 pills every week. Lin could sell them, and they would split the profits. If their arrangement worked, Jai would give him even stronger pills in the future. Jai knew he was taking a huge risk. If Lin refused and reported him to the elders, he would be in serious trouble. But after a brief moment of silence, Lin turned away and muttered that he would be near the second tree next to the outer walls every 7 days during the evening. Jai barely contained his relief. His gamble had worked. By sheer luck, he had been carrying around those failed pills, and the lingering chi from them made it seem like he possessed something valuable. If this plan worked out, he would have a steady supply of herbs without spending a single coin. With this, he could practice alchemy freely, become skilled enough to earn wealth, and finally escape the sect. Later that day, Jai returned to his quarters, only to find a small, unexpected visitor. A mouse sat atop a pile of clutter, nibbling on his pills. Furious, Jai lunged at the creature, but it darted away, leading him on a brief chase before he finally caught it in his grasp. The mouse wriggled, then suddenly went still. Jai's eyes widened as he noticed something peculiar was glowing. Curious, he placed it down and, half-jokingly, threatened to feed it to a cat if it tried to escape. To his surprise, the mouse appeared to understand him, reacting as though it genuinely feared for its life. Digging through his collection of old books, he found one on spirit animals. According to the text, spirit rats were pests known for devouring valuable herbs and ruining crops. They were useless in combat and made terrible familiars. However, they possessed an uncanny ability to locate spirit herbs in the wild. An idea struck Jai. If he could train this rat, he wouldn't have to rely solely on Lin for herbs. He could find them himself outside the sect. As he pondered this, he noticed the rat sniffing at him with large, pleading eyes. It gave him the most pitiful, puppy-like expression he had ever seen. Jai tried to resist, but the sheer cuteness of the tiny creature was overwhelming. With a sigh, he relented and tossed it a pill. The rat eagerly munched on it. Jai patted its small head, praising it as a clever little creature. In that moment, he decided to keep it as his assistant. He named it Labrat, or Labby for short. It was a touching moment, until a mischievous grin spread across his face. If this creature had been stealing from him all along, it was only fair that it now worked for him in return. With that, he let out an evil laugh, while Labby merely stared at him in confusion. Jai was cooking outside, stirring a simmering pot of soup. He took a taste and thought it could use more spice. Just as he reached for his pouch of seasonings, he heard rustling in the bushes. Moments later, Labby leapt out, a bundle of grass clutched in its tiny mouth. Jai extended his palm, and the little spirit rat eagerly placed the herbs onto it. He ruffled Labby's head with a smirk. "Good boy," he praised. The wild herbs weren't as potent as those from the sect spirit garden, but they were easy for Labby to find, making them perfect for experimentation. Jai glanced at the boiling soup and had an idea. Without hesitation, he dropped in one of the herbs. If any traditional alchemist saw him wasting ingredients like this, they'd be horrified. The soup bubbled as he infused it with a touch of his chi, giving it a little extra potency. Satisfied, he ladled some into 2 bowls and set one down for Labby, who skittered toward him in excitement. Jai settled under a tree, savoring the meal in peaceful solitude. When he was finished, he pulled out his notebook and began writing notes on his experiments. The tranquility of the moment made him wonder if he could get used to this kind of life, one where he wasn't constantly being beaten down by the sex hierarchy. Still, he hadn't yet attempted to cultivate. Even alchemists needed to cultivate if they wanted to progress. Closing his notebook, he decided to give it a shot. As he focused, his body began to glow, but something felt off. His chi wasn't cycling properly. He frowned, noting the sensation in his journal, and then thought of trying a different approach. He visualized an infinite cycle, 2 circles intertwining seamlessly. His body glowed brighter, and this time, the flow felt right. He counted his cycles, 16, then 80, then 82, until something inside him shifted. A pop, like a door unlocking within. He realized he had lost track of time. Looking at Labby, he apologized for the delay and stood up to head home. As he walked away, he barely noticed the grass behind him appearing taller than before. A tiny bud sprouted in the exact spot where he had been meditating. Moments later, it bloomed into white roses. Back at the sect, Jai was at work with his cauldron. He had already failed multiple times, wasting more herbs than he cared to count. He sighed, wondering if the 6th attempt would finally be the one. Refining a chi-replenishing elixir was proving more difficult than expected, but he knew the results would be worth it. Sprinkling in the final batch of herbs, he released his chi. The mixture glowed faintly, signaling that it was ready for the final test. Labby, ever attentive, skittered to his side. Jai pointed to a pink flower growing in a pot nearby. "Bring it here," he instructed. Labby bit the stem and scurried back, presenting the delicate spirit-refining lotus. Jai hesitated for a moment, knowing his master would have a heart attack if he saw what he was about to do. But he had a theory. This flower should enhance the recipe, at least in principle. Taking a deep breath, he dropped the flower into the cauldron and channeled his chi. Almost immediately, he realized he had used too much. The cauldron rumbled, steam hissing from its edges. Panic flashed through him as the entire chamber filled with dense energy. Then, with a sudden burst, the cauldron let out a shockwave of chi, sending Jai stumbling backward. He coughed, waving away the lingering energy as Labby jumped onto the lid, his tiny nose twitching in curiosity. Jai cautiously approached and peered inside. His eyes widened in astonishment. A rich, glowing liquid swirled at the bottom, exuding a powerful aura. Grinning, he declared, "I think we just made our first cultivator energy drink." Labby tilted his head, as if questioning what that meant. But Jai only chuckled, feeling the thrill of success for the first time in a long while. Jai's master held up a cup containing the newly brewed energy elixir, studying it intently. His sharp gaze flickered to Jai as he asked whether he had altered the recipe despite previous warnings. Jai hesitated before nodding. His master inquired if the modifications had yielded any improvements. Jai admitted that while the elixir was marginally better and more cost-efficient, perfecting it would take more time and experimentation. His master sighed, setting the cup down. There was an unmistakable concern in his voice as he asked if Jai knew why tampering with established alchemical formulas was so heavily discouraged. Jai shook his head, sensing an underlying weight in his master's words. The ancestors who established the 7 celestial peaks from which the Cloudy Peak sect was formed also created an alchemy vault, his master explained. Within it, they stored countless ancient recipes we are sworn to protect. Any deviations from these formulas are recorded, sealed away, and often prohibited. At that moment, a hidden door creaked open, revealing a chamber lined with countless bookshelves, each filled with tomes of alchemical knowledge. His master continued, "This practice began as a safeguard against dangerous concoctions, but over time it became a rigid law. Those who attempt to innovate either keep to the shadows or suffer unfortunate accidents." He met Jai's gaze with a grave expression. "Are you certain this is the path you wish to walk?" Jai found himself at a crossroads. Did he truly wish to remain an alchemist shackled by the sect's rigid rules, never allowed to push boundaries? That was not his dream. He longed to experiment, to uncover the scientific principles behind cultivation and alchemy. He wanted to change the world, not just for himself, but for the advancement of all. His master must have sensed his resolve, because he raised a hand, stopping Jai, before he could voice his answer. "There is no need to say it. I already see it in your eyes." A knowing sigh escaped him. "Nothing I say will change your mind. Perhaps this is the destiny the heavens have chosen for you." Before leaving, his master gave him one final piece of advice. If you are going to defy the sex rules, do so with every fiber of your being. Do not waver. With that, the old man turned and walked out, leaving Jai standing in silent contemplation. A moment later, his master peeked back into the room. "Same time tomorrow for your next lesson." Jai chuckled and nodded. Later that evening, as dusk painted the sky in deep hues, Jai walked across the sect grounds with Labby scurrying beside him. He reassured the little spirit rat that everything would be fine. He did not want to attract attention. The fewer people aware of his actions, the better. His heart pounded as he approached the meeting point. To his relief, Lin was already there, though fast asleep on the ground. Sensing Jai's arrival, Lin stirred and motioned for him to follow. Jai hesitated. He had no idea where Lin was leading him, and the possibility of betrayal loomed in his mind. If Lin had turned him in, he needed to be ready to flee. Labby, sensing Jai's tension, emitted a faint glow. Jai patted the small creature reassuringly. "It's okay." The two of them entered the cover of the dense forest. Standing face to face, Lin got straight to the point. "Do you have it?" Jai nodded. "Do you have the herbs?" A flicker of hesitation crossed Lin's face, as if he was reevaluating the situation. Deep down, Jai felt like he was doing something illicit. Technically, he was. Lin finally responded, "I do, but show me the pills first." Jai took out a small container and poured the pills into his palm. Lin's eyes widened slightly. "Didn't think you had the guts to go through with it. Thought you'd chicken out." Jai smirked but remained silent. He made his terms clear. 3/4 of the profits would go to him. Lin waved him off. "Don't worry. You'll get your cut. We'll have the money by next week." The transaction complete, Lin turned to leave. "Nice doing business with you." Jai exhaled, relieved that everything had gone smoothly. He turned to Labby. "Time to head back." His words trailed off as he noticed something strange. Labby wasn't in the pouch. Panic gripped him. He frantically checked the pouch again, empty. His stomach sank. Before he could react, a sudden shriek cut through the air, followed by a frantic complaint about a rat. Jai spun around and spotted Labby darting through the grass. A woman stood nearby, her face twisted in panic. When she spotted Jai, she demanded to know if the spirit rat belonged to him. Labby scampered toward Jai, trembling as he landed in his palm. Jai hurriedly apologized to the senior sister, promising to keep a closer watch on Labby. His stomach dropped when he recognized the woman, Yen Yun, granddaughter of the sect leader. Worse, she was furious. Labby had eaten her pill. Jai's blood ran cold. He knew he was as good as dead. Labby trembled in his palm, looking pitiful. Jai scolded him internally. This little creature might very well get them both killed. But to his astonishment, Yun simply told him to forget about it. Jai blinked, uncertain if he had heard correctly. She repeated herself. Jai had expected immediate punishment, yet she was letting it slide. He realized she was far kinder than he had assumed. Still, Yun was curious about what he was doing in such a secluded area, and even more so about why he had a spirit rat. Jai stammered, explaining that Labby could search for spirit herbs. Yun remained skeptical. A spirit rat was, in her opinion, the most pathetic spirit beast imaginable. She asked where he had found it. Jai recounted how Labby had been sneaking into his chamber and eating things until one day he had caught him. Something about Jai intrigued Yun. She questioned his use of the herbs. He couldn't risk revealing his true intentions, so he claimed that he ate them. That only deepened her curiosity. Who just eats raw spirit herbs? He explained that they tasted good when cooked. Yun found him increasingly odd, but at the same time, she was drawn to his simple, unassuming demeanor. The way his eyes shifted awkwardly, his faint smile, and, most curiously, the fact that he showed no interest in her. That realization struck her. She was of a powerful bloodline, a cultivator of immense talent. Every year, noble families practically threw their sons at her grandfather, hoping for a marriage alliance. And yet, here was a boy who seemed utterly indifferent to her. Was he uninterested in women? Lost in thought, she barely noticed Jai requesting permission to leave. However, she sensed another presence nearby. Jai, too, sensed someone hiding but chose not to linger. As he turned to go, Yun found herself wondering, was he meeting another boy in secret? The idea of a forbidden romance between two lovers flashed through her mind, and her face reddened. Before he could leave, she called out and asked for his name. He answered honestly. She then informed him that ordinarily she would forbid him from returning to her private retreat, but she had changed her mind. He could come back, so long as he told no one. She made an exception for the person he had been meeting. Jai was shocked. How had she known about Lin? Yun studied his reaction and smirked. Certain that she had uncovered a secret love affair, she vowed to keep his secret. Jai, utterly bewildered by her kindness, thanked her. He couldn't understand why she was letting him off so easily, especially when Labby had stolen from her. He walked away, still processing the bizarre encounter. He told Labby they needed to be more careful. That girl was trouble. For now, he needed to return to his work. He intended to extract the essence from spirit grass and examine its properties. Perhaps he could even cultivate spirit herbs himself, reducing his reliance on Lin. He boiled a cup of water, testing his hypothesis. If successful, it could be groundbreaking. Labby suddenly squeaked in alarm. Jai turned to see a cat. He chuckled. It made sense that predators would be drawn to Labby. Shooing the cat away, he sighed. First Yun, now a cat. He reminded Labby to stop getting into trouble. However, he noticed something unusual. Labby was growing smarter. Whether he realized it or not, Labby was cultivating. As the pot boiled, Jai infused it with his chi. The liquid swirled but resisted saturation. He had to rethink his approach. Releasing his chi again, he split it into 2 streams, circulating them carefully. The water began to swirl rapidly. Step 1 of his experiment was a success. Also, we are so close to our target, so do it, please subscribe, and let's continue. The morning sun cast a golden glow over the courtyard as Labby scurried about, nibbling on flowers. Its tiny mouth worked tirelessly, and its forehead gleamed faintly as it feasted. Oblivious to its surroundings, Labby continued munching until a glowing orb suddenly materialized above it. The unexpected sight made Labby pause, eyes wide with curiosity. The orb, radiating a strange energy, addressed Labby as a child and inquired about its name. Startled yet intrigued, Labby wondered if this was the key it had heard about. Could it be asking for his name? Without hesitation, Labby responded, "My name is Labby." The orb, however, mispronounced it as Labai. Labby bristled and immediately corrected it. The orb then commented that the name was not from this world, and thus its form was unknown and unsightly. That remark irked Labby. After all, it was his master who had given him this name, an honor beyond measure. To Labby, no name in existence could be better than the one bestowed upon him by his great master. The orb pulsed with understanding before agreeing. As it shone even brighter, Labby panicked and dashed away, scampering toward Jai, his master. Climbing up onto Jai's shoulder, he nestled in place, seeking guidance. Labby wanted nothing more than to assist his master and learn the sacred arts. He vowed to repay his master's boundless generosity. Jai greeted him with a light pat, unaware of Labby's inner turmoil. Frustration welled up within the tiny creature. He couldn't even understand his master's words. How could he learn if he couldn't speak the language? Determined, Labby hopped off Jai's shoulder and set his sights on the divine text resting nearby. Surely, it contained his master's wisdom. Excitement surged through him until a realization struck. He couldn't read. He couldn't even begin to decipher the sacred teachings. A deep sense of disappointment settled over him. How would he ever learn to make pills on his own? Just then, a new scent filled the air, one that sent a shiver down Labby's spine. It smelled of storms and lightning, similar to the aura surrounding the woman his master had once rescued. Driven by instinct, Labby scampered toward the source. He reached a small wooden drawer, its edges worn smooth from use. Struggling with all his might, he tugged at it, paws slipping against the polished surface. After several determined attempts, the drawer finally slid open. Labby dove inside and immediately spotted what had drawn him there. A golden, crackling herb lay nestled among other ingredients. Its scent was intoxicating. Unable to resist, Labby bit into it. The taste was unlike anything he had ever experienced, sharp, electrifying, and filled with raw power. The moment he swallowed, an intense energy coursed through his tiny body. A brilliant light enveloped him as he trembled, the very air around him crackling with electricity. Meanwhile, Jai had just finished his latest batch of pills. He made careful notes in his journal, recording his progress. 3 pills had turned out successfully: Chi gathering pills, body purification pills, and Chi reinforcement pills. Satisfied, he calculated his earnings. Each batch brought in around 20 silver pieces. With his current income of 25 silver per week, he estimated that it would take him 80 more weeks to afford his own shop. It was a long journey, but he refused to be discouraged. A sudden movement caught his attention. His gaze snapped toward the open drawer. His heart sank. He had learned from past experience not to leave it open. Bugs always found their way inside. He rushed to close it, but as he peered inside, his eyes widened in horror. A golden bolt of lightning shot out, zigzagging wildly across the room. It moved with incredible speed, erratic and uncontrollable. Jai barely had time to react before it slammed into his chest with a surprising amount of force. Staggering back, he gasped and looked down. Labby sat on his chest, eyes wide with excitement, sparks flickering off his fur. Jai blinked. "Labby, did you just use Thunderbolt on me?" His question went unanswered as he glanced back at the drawer, now completely empty. A sinking feeling settled in his stomach. This sneaky little rat had devoured the lightning-infused herbs. And now, it had evolved into an electric-type spirit beast. Meanwhile, in another setting, Yun sat in deep concentration, taking slow, measured breaths. However, her focus was broken by an unexpected knock at the door. Irritated, she composed herself and permitted the visitor to enter. Her servant, Zuri, stepped in hesitantly, apologizing for the intrusion. Yun, still composed, explained that she had only been in brief meditation and would not be cultivating in her chambers that day. She then asked if Zuri had found anything. Zuri handed her a scroll and reported that the archives held little of note. The boy Yun had inquired about was unremarkable in most aspects. She went on to explain that he had ceased sparring and cultivating, instead spending his time apprenticing under Lao Jiang, the elderly alchemist. Yun found this revelation logical, given how strongly the boy smelled of spirit herbs. Curious, she asked if he had officially joined the alchemy halls. Zuri shook her head, stating that, as far as she could tell, the boy had been defeated in a spar and had suddenly decided to take up alchemy instead. She speculated that he might be seeking a new path in life. Yet, something about it didn't sit right with Yun. She was about to ask Zuri about someone related to the boy, but hesitated, her face suddenly warm. She had sworn an oath and could not say the name aloud. Instead, Zuri informed her that the boy visited the grove every week. Yun felt a surge of relief, pleased that their encounter had not scared him away. Zuri then inquired if Yun wanted her to investigate the other boy, but Yun declined, stating that she had given her word. With that, she dismissed Zuri and thanked her for her efforts. Left alone, Yun considered sneaking in while the boys met, but quickly dismissed the thought as too shameful. Instead, she decided to keep her curiosity to herself and simply observe from a distance. Meanwhile, Jai ascended a long flight of stairs, lost in thought. The sect was filled with countless cultivators, individuals blessed beyond the wildest dreams of common folk. He questioned why cultivation remained so dependent on innate talent. If it was a force of nature, shouldn't it follow certain principles? Why was the path to immortality seemingly so rigid? A strange frustration welled up inside him, an emotion he wasn't sure belonged to him or to the memories of the body he now inhabited. Yet, it fueled his determination. A thought began to form, a desire to unravel the very laws that govern cultivation to make it more accessible. He envisioned a system of guidance, a way to not only advance himself, but to help others as well. The idea resonated deeply within him, causing his chi to stir as if in response. A flickering light at the other end of the corridor caught his eye, bringing him out of his trance. They had arrived at their destination. Despite being consumed by his thoughts, he found himself standing before a door. Knocking firmly, he greeted the elder inside and requested to register his spirit companion. The elder studied him intently, his gaze heavy and unsettling. Jai felt an invisible force pressing down on him, rendering him immobile. Labby, nestled in his robe, trembled as well. A wind chime jingled softly, accompanied by a faint giggle. The elder, without looking away, addressed someone unseen. "Jinyu, stop playing around." With that, the oppressive sensation lifted, and Jai exhaled in relief. The elder then instructed him to present his spirit. With some hesitation, Jai reached into his robe, and Labby peeked out before hopping onto his palm. The elder frowned. "A rat?" His tone carried clear disappointment. "Why have you brought a mirror past?" Jai hastily explained, but before he could finish, Labby, offended by the elder's dismissal, let out a crackle of electricity. Sparks danced around its tiny body before it released a small burst of lightning at the elder. The elder remained utterly unfazed. With a casual flick of his hand, the electricity dissipated into nothingness. He eyed Labby with a mixture of amusement and mild annoyance. An unruly spirit. Labby stared back defiantly. The elder shook his head and turned to Jai. "You should teach it some manners." Jai quickly scolded Labby and apologized. The elder waved off the apology, stating that the spirit was, at the very least, unique. "Tell me, why did you choose a spirit rat? Even if it is special, it remains a curious choice." Jai explained that Labby was incredibly useful for finding spirit herbs. The elder accepted the answer, acknowledging that he was not in a position to pry further. "Very well. Your spirit companion will be registered. You may go." As Jai turned to leave, the elder called out once more. He glanced back to see a female spirit floating beside the elder, her form shimmering like mist in the sunlight. The elder smirked slightly. "Jinyu has taken a liking to your spirit. Interesting." Jai descended the staircase, reflecting on his need to be sterner with Labby. The encounter with the elder could have ended much worse, and the last thing he wanted was to face an elder's wrath. Labby peeked out from Jai's pouch, sensing his thoughts. Jai asked what the elder's spirit had given him, suspecting it to be a pill. Labby inspected the small, egg-like object, its surface so polished that it reflected his tiny face. Jan Yu had gifted it to him, understanding his desires. She explained that while the object could grant Labby temporary humanity, it would come at a cost. She warned him to consider carefully, was he willing to abandon his form to be as great as his master? Moreover, Labby lacked the necessary chi to sustain the transformation permanently. Just as he prepared to eat it, Jai interrupted, announcing their arrival at 7th Peak City. As they entered the city grounds, Jai marveled at the vibrant colors, the rich scents, and the palpable chi drifting through the air. Having lived among cultivators, he had never realized just how different ordinary people were. Labby alone had more chi than most of them. Shaking off his distractions, he reminded himself of his purpose, to find an alchemy shop. Navigating through the marketplace, Jai found himself drawn to a growing crowd. A man stood on a platform, announcing the power of a formation amulet capable of withstanding even the mightiest strikes. Crafted by the disciples of the great Shao San, it was said to be a treasure. The man challenged anyone willing to test its strength, offering it at half price to those who could break through its ward. Jai dismissed it as a cheap trick, but the vendor spotted him, recognizing him as a sect disciple. He called Jai forward, offering him the first attempt. The gathered crowd turned their expectant gazes toward him. He hesitated, unsure how to refuse, when a child in the crowd cheered him on. With a resigned sigh, he decided to try. The vendor declared that if Jai succeeded, the amulet would be his for free. Jai suspected deception. There had to be a trick to it. The vendor held out the amulet, inviting Jai to strike. Knowing no real combat techniques, Jai nonetheless covered his fist with chi and struck. A loud crack echoed through the air, but the ward remained intact. Pain shot through Jai's fist, and the vendor praised his effort while declaring that not even such a powerful blow could break through. Despite himself, Jai was intrigued. The ward had indeed held, but he had no means of gauging his own strength. Just then, the same child from before approached him and handed him 3 green stones, explaining that they were a token of appreciation for playing along and not ruining the demonstration. Jai declined, but instead, he asked where he could find affordable yet good alchemical tools. Grateful, the child pointed him down the street, instructing him to take the left past the big store and walk through an alley until he smelled herbs. There, he would find an old woman, eccentric but known for selling the best pills and herbs. Jai thanked him and set off, unaware that Yun was secretly watching. Yun chastised herself for spying but couldn't resist. Her imagination ran wild, convincing her that Jai was on his way to a clandestine meeting with a lover. Otherwise, why else would she sense a familiar chi presence in the direction he was heading? She followed him as he turned left past the big store. Jai, however, paused mid-step. Something felt off. He scanned his surroundings and noticed Lin. Yun's heart pounded, misinterpreting the moment. She believed Jai had just discovered his secret lover. Meanwhile, Jai was simply puzzled by Lin's presence. Why was he following him? Deciding not to dwell on it, he continued toward the alchemy shop. However, before he could reach his destination, someone emerged from the shadows. A sharp blade pressed against his side as a hand grabbed him from behind. Lin's voice cut through the tension, demanding to know why Jai had been following him. Lin pressed the knife against Ji's head, drawing a thin trickle of blood. Ji quickly explained that he had only wanted to confirm if it was really him, and he had been right. He urged Lin to lower the knife. With a sigh, Lin let go and admitted that he had mistaken Ji for one of Zhu's lackeys. He then scrutinized Ji, noting how much he had changed. Ji tensed, wondering if Lin had figured out the truth. Lin remarked that Ji had once been timid, but now there was something different about him. Meanwhile, Yun, who had been spying from a distance, saw the encounter in an entirely different light. To her, it looked intimate, Lin's hands still on Ji's neck, their faces so close it seemed like they might kiss. Flushed red, she was thrilled by the idea of a forbidden romance unfolding before her. Lin turned serious and demanded to know why Ji was following him. Ji quickly explained that he was looking for an old woman who sold alchemical supplies. Lin immediately guessed who he was talking about, the pipe-smoking, cackling crone known for her wares. With a smirk, he declared that it must have been fate. He gestured for Ji to follow him and then called out loudly to the old hag, announcing that the guy who had been supplying him with pills wanted to see her. From inside, a loud crashing sound echoed through the doorway, making Ji hesitate. What had he gotten himself into? Lin, unbothered, muttered that the old woman was practically deaf and urged him to go inside. Upon entering, Ji found himself in a cluttered space that looked more like a witch's hut than an alchemy shop. A man approached him and asked if he was Ji. When Ji confirmed, the man bowed in gratitude, thanking him for the pills and the money. Ji was taken aback, confused about what Lin had done with the pills he had given him. Lin waved it off, stating that it was supposed to be a quiet matter until Ji decided to follow him. However, the man, Chun, insisted that gratitude was still due. Ji, feeling slightly awkward, apologized for interfering. Lin dismissed his concerns, introducing the boy beside Chun as Cowan and the sleeping man as Brother Jiang. Ji quickly realized they were not blood-related, but still called each other brothers. His gaze lingered on Jiang, sensing something off. He couldn't detect any qi from him at all. Curious, he asked about Jiang's condition. Lin's expression darkened as he explained that Jiang had been crippled. An old woman appeared then, her presence exuding experience and a quiet strength despite her frail appearance. She explained that the sect had crippled Jiang as punishment for choosing the lives of his companions over the son of some powerful cultivator. Ji observed her closely, noting that she had aged poorly despite her evident cultivation. Ji then turned to Lin and asked if this was the reason he needed so many spirit herbs. Lin confirmed it. The old woman, Granny Lang, had been taking care of Jiang ever since. Ji found his perception of Lin shifting. Perhaps he wasn't as much of a rat as Ji had thought. Granny Lang then fixed her sharp gaze on Ji, asking if it was his first time seeing a crippled cultivator. When he admitted it was, she told him to take a good look. This was the fate of those who defied power. Ji followed her deeper into the shop, his mind still processing everything. He watched as Lin handed over the pills to Granny Lang. Ji instantly recognized them as his own. Granny Lang examined them before turning to Ji, questioning if they were of his own making. She noted that the composition had been altered with unnecessary ingredients and unrefined impurities. With a scoff, she criticized Ji's master, calling him a poor teacher. Ji hesitated before asking if she knew the old man. Granny Lang swallowed the pill without hesitation and remarked that no one else would be foolish enough to take him as a disciple. Ji gathered that she clearly despised the sect. When he asked why she never joined one of the official alchemy halls, she deflected by throwing the same question back at him. He understood the message. Some things were better left unspoken. His gaze returned to Jiang, and a new thought struck him. He asked if all crippled cultivators ended up like this. Granny Lang explained that in most cases, they could still live normal lives. But Jiang's case was different. His cultivation had been forcefully ripped out, shattered beyond repair. The fact that he had survived at all was a miracle, perhaps even a testament to his talent. Lin gripped a broom, frustration evident in his expression. What good did that talent do for him? He snapped. Ji realized he was becoming too entangled in this, but he couldn't ignore it. He had vowed to make cultivation accessible to all. What better way to start than by finding a way to restore a crippled cultivator? If he could heal Jiang, perhaps even commoners could cultivate. With that thought, he turned to Granny Lang and asked if there was any way to heal him. She admitted that while there were rare herbs and elixirs that might help, full recovery was unlikely. Then, shifting the topic, she acknowledged that Lin had informed her about Ji's supplies. As a show of gratitude, she offered him whatever he needed, considering it an investment in his work. Ji gratefully accepted and began scanning the shop for the materials he required. As he collected his things, Lin smirked. "You made her open shelves she hasn't touched in decades," he quipped. Ji chuckled, thanking him for the help. He pulled a pouch from his pocket and tried to hand it to Lin. Lin refused, reminding him that the supplies were given for free. Ji insisted, explaining that the money barely covered half the cost, but it was the least he could do. Finally, Lin relented, taking the pouch and helping Ji carry his things. As they walked through the streets, Ji glanced at Lin. "You're a surprisingly decent guy," he remarked. Lin smirked. "And you're surprisingly clumsy. Now move it. I don't want to be late." The atmosphere was light between them until they reached a busier street, where they were immediately confronted by a group of armed men. Ji paled as he took in the scene, his gut telling him he had gotten too involved in something dangerous. Lin's expression darkened as he recognized the leader. "Zhu," he acknowledged. Zhu grinned, an ominous aura radiating from him. The tension in the air thickened, signaling that trouble had finally caught up to them. Zhu and his men approached, causing Ji to internally panic. Zhu's gaze shifted to Lin's companion, and he smirked. He remarked that he never expected Lin to be the type to mingle with sect disciples. Lin, unfazed, told him to back off. Zhu sneered and accused him of stealing spirit stones and cutting off their supply of pills. Ji quickly pieced things together. Lin had likely worked with them before, smuggling spirit herbs. But once Ji entered the picture as a new and more profitable source, Lin had switched sides, betraying Zhu in the process. Lin scoffed, saying Zhu should have expected betrayal when he cast him aside. Ji knew the situation was dire. He had no intention of dying in some random back alley. Gritting his teeth, he considered his options and thought of one desperate gamble. Stepping forward, he raised his palm, channeling his chi. He declared that he didn't care about their grievances, but Lin had something he needed, and he would prefer if Zhu stepped aside. Zhu's eyes gleamed with amusement. He called Ji a righteous fool, and asked if he truly wanted to let a thieving rat escape again. He warned Ji that while he may be a cultivator, there were many more of them. He challenged Ji to see whose fists spoke louder. Ji fought to maintain his composure, but inside he was panicking. They weren't buying his bluff. He needed another trick. With a deep breath, he released his chi, radiating as much presence as he could muster. He hoped it would be enough to intimidate them into backing down. But his body was already starting to waver, his facade slipping. He wondered if Zhu could see through him, that he was all bark and no bite. Zhu, unimpressed, ordered his men to seize Lin again. Ji's bluff had failed. Desperation set in. He reached for one last trick. Just as Zhu's men advanced, Labby peeked out from Ji's robe and suddenly leaped forward. Before anyone could react, the small creature latched onto Zhu and released a surge of electricity. A deafening explosion filled the alley, and the gang was thrown backward, their bodies convulsing from the shock. Ji and Lin stood frozen, their jaws hanging open. Zhu and his men lay sprawled on the ground, twitching, smoke rising from their clothes. Ji's mind raced. What just happened? The gang groaned, looking at Ji in terror. One of them stammered, calling him a monster. A voice whispered in Ji's mind, urging him to act. He straightened, infused his voice with chi, and coldly declared that Zhu should have heeded his warning. He added that if their lives meant nothing to them, he would gladly take them. Inwardly, he was just as confused as they were, but he played along. He declared that he was being merciful and offered them a chance to walk away. If they ever approached him again, he would not be so kind. To emphasize his threat, Labby unleashed another bolt of lightning, striking the ground in front of them. Terrified, Zhu and his men scrambled to their feet and fled. Lin turned to Ji, stunned. "What the hell was that?" he asked. Ji wiped the sweat from his brow and replied, "Honestly, I have no idea." Labby purred, nuzzling against Ji's chest. Before Ji could process what had just happened, an eagle's cry pierced the air. He and Lin looked up and spotted Yun descending toward them. Yun, however, was completely flustered. To her, the scene she had witnessed looked incredibly intimate. Lin's hand gripping Ji's arm, their faces close together. Her cheeks burned as her imagination ran wild. Was she witnessing a forbidden love between two disciples torn apart by their circumstances? The thought thrilled her. Her eagle spirit interrupted her fantasies, urging her to compose herself. She straightened, clearing her throat, and addressed them with a noble air. "I should inquire about your involvement with those thugs, but for someone in my position, it would be inappropriate. So, I shall pretend I saw nothing." Ji and Lin exchanged confused glances. What was she talking about? Yun turned away, giggling to herself. In her mind, the two were star-crossed lovers forced to hide in the shadows, bound by duty but yearning for each other. It was tragic. It was beautiful. Her spirit sighed, telling her to stop with her delusions. Lin interrupted her musings. Were you the one behind that lightning earlier?" Yun, still caught up in her fantasy, blinked before nodding. "Yes, I saw two sect disciples in danger. It was only right to help." Ji frowned. "How did you speak in my head?" She looked at him incredulously. "It's a basic technique. You mean to tell me you haven't used it to communicate with your spirit?" Ji had no idea what she was talking about. His gaze drifted to Labby, who was staring back at him. Yun's spirit whispered to her that Ji's spirit companion had something to say to him, something important. Ji blinked, realizing something that should have been obvious. Labby was a girl. Yun deduced that the lack of a bond must be the reason Labby couldn't communicate with Jai. She explained that since he had just registered Labby, she had obtained an art specifically meant to help form their connection. Jai found it difficult to adjust to the idea of Labby being female, but he kept that thought to himself. He admitted that he hadn't had the time to focus on their bond due to the overwhelming events of the day. Yun nodded in understanding before noting something unusual. She sensed lightning chi within Labby, but none within Jai. This was highly uncommon, as a spirit beast's affinity usually mirrored its master's. She inquired if he was truly suited to have Labby as his spirit beast. Jai, though uncertain, reaffirmed that Labby was already his spirit. It was not a choice he needed to make, but rather something that had already happened. A somber mood settled over him as he realized he had never truly considered his bond with Labby. Sensing this, Yun offered to help them form a proper connection and teach him how to care for a lightning spirit beast. Jai was taken aback by her unexpected kindness, but ultimately agreed. Lin, observing their exchange, leaned in and whispered to Jai, questioning why Yun was even in the alley in the first place, especially considering her status as the sect's young mistress. Jai hesitated before realizing that Yun had never asked why they were there either. Lin simply smirked, lost in her own world of exaggerated assumptions, and urged them to return to the sect since they had work to do. A short while later, the group arrived at a secluded part of the forest. Yun assumed Jai had a basic understanding of spirit bonds, but the blank look on his face made her pale. Realizing she had to start from the very basics, she explained that spirit bonds could only be formed after a cultivator reached the second realm and completed their chi foundation. Jai nodded, following along. Yun further elaborated that the strength of a bond depended on the spirit's realm. Most of the time, a cultivator could only bond with a spirit that was at least one realm lower than them, as sustaining a spirit required chi. Fortunately, rats needed only a minimal amount of chi to survive. Labby, clearly offended by the generalization, began crackling with lightning. Jai quickly reassured her, stating that Yun had only meant other spirit rats, not Labby, who was clearly the best. Continuing her explanation, Yun noted that while Jai had sufficient chi, a spirit beast could, over time, grow stronger and even surpass its master. She used dragons as an example, explaining that their pride was nearly insurmountable. If a dragon spirit believed it could outgrow its master, it often would. This was why only powerful cultivators dared to tame them. Yun then shared that her own spirit, Lu, had been raised by her grandfather, making their bond much easier to manage. However, if not for that, she likely wouldn't have been able to keep an eagle spirit of such a high realm. She then asked Jai to show her the spirit-binding art he had received earlier. As she examined it, her expression turned thoughtful. Jai grew anxious, wondering if something was wrong with the technique. Yun decided to make some adjustments, tailoring it to better suit his unique circumstances. As the modified technique glowed in her hands, she returned it to him and instructed him to take a look before they began the binding process. Jai couldn't help but question her generosity, but he brushed the thought aside. Following Yun's instructions, he stilled his chi and focused on the guided pathways shown in the technique. He reached out toward Labby, asking if she was ready. Labby eagerly confirmed, and the process began. In an instant, the forest seemed to fade away, replaced by a space bathed in a bluish hue, crackling with arcs of lightning. Jai concentrated, channeling his chi through his dantian and along the designated pathways. He could feel Labby's presence, and more importantly, she could feel him too. It was as if their very essences were intertwining. Jai's dantian shifted, making space for Labby, accepting her completely. As he opened his eyes, he tentatively called her name. Labby's response was immediate and filled with joy. "Great master," she chirped. The bond had formed. They could now communicate with each other. Jai stared at Labby, who smiled back at him. He finally voiced how nice it was to talk to her properly. Apologizing, he admitted that it had taken him too long to reach this point. Labby tilted her head in confusion, asking why he was sorry. Had he done something wrong? Jai sighed, shaking his head. I didn't pay as much attention to you as I should have, he admitted. I had no idea what kind of responsibility came with taking you in. Labby still didn't fully understand his concern, but she could sense his sincerity. Jai gently patted her, assuring her that from now on, he would do his best to take care of her properly. Labby, however, was more focused on the exciting prospect of learning from her master and, most importantly, eating many wonderful alchemy pills. Jai chuckled, remembering that, to her, alchemy pills were nothing more than delicious treats. Yun approached, pleased with the outcome. Looks like the bonding went well, she remarked. Jai turned to her with genuine gratitude. Thank you, he said. Not many would be so kind, even after knowing our situation. Yun blinked in surprise before a light flush crept up her cheeks. She stammered, brushing it off as nothing. Jai and Lin exchanged a look, confused by her reaction. They couldn't understand why she was suddenly so flustered. Was she simply enused to gratitude? Noticing their stares, Yun narrowed her eyes. What? She asked, crossing her arms. Jai quickly shook his head. Nothing. Just, I really appreciate your help, he said, half-jokingly adding, I only hope you won't decide to kill me for it. He regretted his words almost immediately, dreading that he might have accidentally offended her. The silence stretched unbearably. Yun stuttered, struggling to form a response, her face growing even redder. Then her spirit Lu interrupted the awkward moment with a loud exclamation. She thinks you and the other boy are lovers, the eagle spirit declared. A thick silence fell over the group. Lin stood frozen for a moment before bursting into uncontrollable laughter. Even Labby, despite not fully grasping the situation, twitched her whiskers in amusement. Meanwhile, Yun blushed furiously, reaching for Lu and grabbing his beak to silence him. Jai's face darkened with mortification. That doesn't even make any sense, he protested. Lin, however, was too busy rolling on the ground, laughing hysterically to respond. Yun's face turned impossibly red as she struggled with her rebellious spirit companion. Lu, seemingly unaffected by her frantic attempts to quiet him, continued, Her delusions have been running wild for weeks. And frankly, I'm getting tired of it. Jai shot Yun an incredulous look. He hadn't thought it was possible for a person's face to turn even redder, yet she somehow managed it. It was only then that Yun seemed to fully realize the absurdity of her assumption. Understanding dawned on her, and her eyes widened in shock. Wait, she gasped, piecing things together. You mean to tell me that you too aren't? Jai fixed her with a disgusted look, unimpressed with how long it took for her to figure it out. Flustered beyond belief, Yun abruptly turned on her heel. I have to go, she declared, sparks of lightning gathering at her feet. In the blink of an eye, she vanished, her departure leaving nothing but a crackle of residual energy in the air. Jai and Lin stood there in stunned silence. Then, still wiping away tears of laughter, Lin turned to Jai with a smirk. Come on, my love, let's head back to the sect. Jai groaned, already regretting ever getting involved. Lin, he warned. Lin only laughed harder, thoroughly enjoying his suffering. Later that evening, Jai sat in his quarters, placing his belongings down with a sigh. What a crazy day, he muttered to himself. He gently set a small plant on the table, taking a moment to admire it. Despite everything, it felt good to be back. His gaze drifted to the floor, and after a moment's hesitation, he decided to try cultivating again. Crossing his legs, he settled into position, taking a deep breath in, then out. He focused, guiding his chi carefully. Yet, no matter how much he tried, he felt no change. His chi pulsed within his dantian, but his cultivation remained stagnant, as though he were pressing against an immovable wall. The essence of the world refused to respond. Frustration threatened to overtake him until, suddenly, something shifted. He could feel the spirit herbs around him, their energy subtly intertwined with his own. Acting on instinct, he allowed his chi to flow into them, linking them together, just as he had done with Labby. A connection formed, rooting him at the center like the base of a great tree made of pure energy. Time blurred as the process continued, the world around him fading into insignificance. Within his dantian, something new took shape. The sensation was unlike anything he had ever experienced before. Then he felt it, a pulse of energy from the plant beside him. His eyes snapped open, and he stared at the small herb in shock. He had done something entirely unexpected. He had created his own spirit herb garden right there in his room. The wind blew softly as Jai sat reading a book, his expression one of disappointment. He had yet to find what he was looking for. With a sigh, he glanced at Labby, who was almost buried beneath the plants, yet seemed to be enjoying herself. Despite his own frustration, her contentment brought him a small sense of relief. Frowning, he turned his attention back to the book, scanning its pages in search of clues on how he had managed to form a miniature spirit garden. He had started reading early in the morning, yet several hours later, he closed the book, feeling stuck. Labby, noticing his frustration, cheerfully asked if she could eat some herb pills. Jai allowed it, but cautioned her not to overdo it. As she happily munched on her snack, he reflected on the events of the previous night. He had altered his cultivation method into 2 loops resembling an infinity symbol, then reached out to the essence within the spirit herbs. That was when something had changed. He still didn't fully understand it, but he could see why cultivation was so addicting to those who pursued it. Yet the question remained, did he truly want to walk this path? He never desired to fight, but he had been naive to believe that he could achieve his dreams without it. Staring at his palm, he widened his fingers and found Labby peeking up at him. "Are you worried, Great Master?" she asked, tilting her head. Jai nodded, explaining that he was conflicted about his path. His goal had never been to chase the heavens, but rather to bring them down and make them tangible, understandable. Yet, in order to do so, he had to cultivate the very thing he had been trying to avoid. Labby blinked, unable to fully grasp his dilemma. "Then just deny the heavens. Don't fight unless you have to. You are not my great master because of your strength. You are who you are because you are kind and clever, and because you helped me become who I am." Jai smiled at her words, pulling her into a hug. "Thank you, Labby. That was exactly what I needed to hear." Later that day, Jai visited his master Yakyang, who was busy working over cauldron. As Jai entered the room, he greeted Yakyang and apologized for not visiting more often, explaining that he had been occupied with matters in the city. Yakyang simply responded, "The city? Huh? I see." Jai then admitted that he had more questions about cultivation. While he still didn't wish to return to his old path, he had realized that in order to progress in alchemy, he would still need to cultivate. Yakyang nodded. "You're partially correct. However, you do not need to grow stronger to learn alchemy. Knowledge itself is a path, and there is more than one road to the top." Jai expressed his desire to follow a different path and asked for his master's guidance. Yakyang, momentarily startled, studied him before speaking. "I had assumed you were running away after your defeat, but I see now that your ambition surpasses even my own. What do you need help with?" They sat down over tea, and Jai explained his thoughts in detail. Yakyang listened intently before mentioning that he had heard of spirits of the forest in lands far to the west, beyond the empire, but knew little beyond that. He suggested that Jai check the library. Jai's eyes widened in surprise. "There's a library?" Yakyang raised a brow. "You didn't know?" Jai quickly covered his surprise. "I just forgot," he lied, though inwardly he found himself scoffing at the original Jai for being such a meathead that he hadn't even known about the sect's library. Yakyang chuckled. "You should take a look. The library is open for all disciples, though some sections are restricted." Jai thanked his master and soon found himself standing before the grand doors of the library. He was amazed by the vastness of the building, a place filled with the accumulated knowledge of generations of cultivators. A smile formed on his lips as he took in the sight. Introspection often reveals the secrets of the heavens, he murmured to himself. Stepping forward, he felt a sense of deep gratitude for his master and the opportunities before him. His journey was only just beginning. Inside the library, an elder sat at his desk, busy writing. Lifting his gaze from the pages, he noticed the same boy once again. With a knowing look, he called out to him. Ji turned, acknowledging the elder and asking what he needed. The elder studied him briefly before remarking that he hoped Ji hadn't lost his spirit rat. However, from the looks of his binding technique, it seemed he was doing well. Ji responded with a respectful nod, assuring the elder that his honored spirit was still with him and that he had been fortunate to receive help in binding it. He then explained that he was searching for books on spirit herbs and cultivation. The elder took note of his request, then released his chi. A gentle pulse of energy filled the air, and he informed Ji that his spirit guide, Yu, would lead him to the appropriate section. Ji bowed in gratitude before hesitating for a moment. Curiosity got the better of him, and he politely inquired about the elder's name, wondering if he worked in multiple sections of the sect. The elder introduced himself as Tianfang. At that moment, Yu, a mysterious presence, stirred. She gestured for Ji to follow her. As he did, his thoughts raced. He had never seen a human-like spirit before. Noticing his curiosity, Yu spoke, advising him that it would serve him well to learn to mask his emotions. Embarrassed that she had sensed his thoughts so easily, Ji lowered his head. Without another word, Yu pointed toward a row of bookshelves. "That is what you seek," she said. Ji offered his thanks before browsing through the selection. He found a book of interest and gathered a few more. When he turned, he was startled to find Yu standing right behind him. He quickly apologized for his reaction, explaining that he had thought she had left. Yu observed him with an unreadable expression before speaking again. "The child has accepted my gift," she remarked. "It would be wise to look after her as she grows." Ji hesitated, his mind reeling. Was she referring to Labby? Did this mean that Labby, too, could evolve into a human-like spirit? As if sensing his thoughts, Yu continued, "The child walks a new path, one different from my kind." Ji could only nod, still uncertain about the implications of her words. Before he could ask more, Yu bid him farewell, leaving him in quiet confusion. He wasn't sure if he should thank her, but by the time he gathered his thoughts, she was already gone. Back in Ji's chamber, Labby was filled with joy. She pranced around, declaring that her great master had created a miracle. The garden felt like heaven. She twirled in delight, exclaiming her desire to devour everything. However, she restrained herself, remembering Ji's instructions. If she wanted the herbs, she trusted that her great master would refine them into magnificent pills for her. Stretching lazily, Labby sighed in contentment. She envisioned herself following in Ji's footsteps, one day becoming as great as he was. Life, she thought, was truly good. Her moment of peace, however, was short-lived. Her ears twitched, picking up an unfamiliar sound. She lifted her head and turned toward the window. Perched upon the sill was a cat, its gaze smug and unreadable. Labby's fur bristled. Alarm and indignation surged through her as she recognized the feline as her longtime nemesis. The cat, however, seemed utterly unimpressed by her reaction. Labby refused to let such a vile creature taint her great master's paradise. She declared, in no uncertain terms, that the cat was not welcome. Sparks of lightning crackled around her small frame as she squeaked furiously. She released a burst of energy, hurling it toward the intruder. The bolt struck the cat's paw, leaving a faint burn. To Labby's satisfaction, the cat paused to lick its wound. She stood taller, proud of herself. Glaring at the feline, she issued an ultimatum. Leave and never return or swear fealty to her and her great master. For a long moment, the cat simply stared at her. Then, with a slow and deliberate nod, it acknowledged her declaration. Labby, triumphant, took the gesture as a sign of submission. Her eyes gleamed as she whispered, "Then it is fealty." Ji remained inside the library, deeply engrossed in his reading. Hours had passed, yet he still hadn't found exactly what he was looking for. Despite this, his efforts weren't entirely in vain. He had formed a solid theory about his recent achievement in his chamber. The garden, he realized, was a living, breathing formation, and he was its anchor. Whenever he cultivated there, the growth of the surrounding herbs accelerated, as if they too were cultivating alongside him. The concept intrigued him. How had he even managed to accomplish such a thing? And if his tiny personal garden possessed such capabilities, he could scarcely imagine the power of the sect's grand garden. Ji sighed, resting his head on the table with a groan. After a brief moment, he lifted his gaze and decided to continue searching for answers. Rising from his seat, he headed upstairs, ascending the staircase in pursuit of further knowledge. As he neared the top, a voice halted him. "The upper levels are off limits," the speaker stated. Ji flinched, turning toward the source of the voice. An elder standing by the entrance informed him that access required the exchange of sect tokens. Ji quickly approached and offered an apology, explaining that he had simply forgotten the rule. Still, he felt stuck. He had no way of accessing the information he sought. At that moment, a chime sounded, drawing his attention. It was you. He turned towards the aisle where she had appeared, but by the time he reached it, she had already vanished. It seemed she wanted him to follow her. Ji searched for her, weaving through the library, but instead, he nearly collided with someone. The stranger apologized, explaining that he had been following a spirit's call and hadn't been paying attention to where he was going. Ji observed him carefully. The man seemed polite, yet something about him felt off. His expression barely shifted as he spoke, as if he were wearing an invisible mask. Ji dismissed the notion and told the stranger not to bother with formalities, as he doubted he would rise much higher in rank. The man, however, disagreed. "Ranks are ranks," he said, "and you are both higher in cultivation and older than me." Ji felt uneasy under his gaze. The man smirked, adding, "Respect is due, after all." Ji was about to take his leave when the man unexpectedly grabbed his arm. Surprised, Ji turned back to him. The stranger asked if he, too, was seeking entry to the second floor. Ji hesitated before replying that he was merely looking for books and doubted what he needed was up there. The man shared that he, too, desired scriptures from the upper chambers. He then proposed that they work together to earn enough sect tokens. Ji asked what exactly he was suggesting. "Just looking for a partner for a task," the man explained. "The elder spirit guided me, and I accepted the path it revealed." And he added, his gaze sharpening, "You smell of spirit herbs. The task requires spirit herbs." A chill ran down Ji's spine. Did this man just sniff him? The situation was far too convenient. Just when Ji had been thinking about reaching the upper levels, he was suddenly lured here. By you no less. He couldn't help but wonder why. Sensing Ji's hesitation, the man assured him that he didn't need to decide right away. "If you change your mind, meet me at the sect gates in 5 days at sunrise." Ji nodded vaguely. "I'll think about it." Before leaving, he asked for the man's name. For the first time during their conversation, the stranger smiled. He removed the pin from his hair and introduced himself as Yakyang. Returning to his chamber, Ji was startled to find a cat lounging inside. Panic seized him as he feared the worst. Had it eaten Labby? Frantically, he searched the room until Labby's voice rang out, reassuring him that she was unharmed. She was, in fact, lying underneath the cat. Ji exhaled in relief. Labby proudly declared that she had defended the spirit herb haven from the evil feline, and in doing so, had even made the cat her loyal minion. Ji watched as the cat stretched lazily before glancing at him and meowing. He doubted its supposed loyalty. Without a care, the cat turned and leaped onto the windowsill before disappearing outside. Ji sighed. "Cats never change, no matter the world," he muttered, expecting it to return eventually. Turning his attention back to Labby, Ji informed her that he had decided to teach her a few things. Labby's ears perked up, her excitement evident. "The great master is going to teach me how to make pills," she exclaimed. Ji's lips curled into a mischievous grin. "Not quite," he said. "I'm going to teach you math." Labby's delighted expression froze. A look of pure horror crossed her face. Jai sat with Labby, drawing the number 1 on a piece of paper and holding it out for her. She tilted her head, ears drooping slightly as she stared at the symbol. "Labby doesn't know," she said softly, disappointment in her tone. Jai smiled and placed the paper in front of her. He explained gently, "It's 1. It means a single unit of something, like one of me and one of you." Labby continued to stare at the page before replying, but Labby doesn't think this is 1. 1 isn't up to down, standing straight. 1 is left to right, flowing along the earth. Jai was puzzled until realization struck. He had drawn the Arabic numeral 1, but Labby was referring to the local script, the character for 1. He quickly sketched the correct symbol, and Labby nodded. He drew the characters for 2 and 3, and she recognized each one. Surprised, Jai asked, "You can read these?" Labby responded with a clear affirmation through their bond. He had taken her intelligence for granted. A talking rat was already strange, but one who could read and count? He decided to test her further. Writing a simple sentence in the local language, he held it out. "Can you read this?" "The laws of cultivation and the origin of chi," Labby replied. Jai stared at her. "Who taught you to read or count?" "Labby doesn't know." Labby knew when Labby became Labby. Labby thinks the chi told her when it asked for her name. "The chi asked for your name?" Jai repeated, struggling to comprehend. Labby clarified. "It only spoke once, to ask for Labby's name. The rest Labby just knew, like knowing the sun, the moon, and the heavens." Jai considered the implications. Could chi carry knowledge? Was it sentient? If souls existed, perhaps there was more to this world's energies than he had thought. "Can you ask the chi questions?" he asked. Labby doesn't know. It doesn't talk. It doesn't like Labby much either. It says Labby's name isn't from here. It wanted to call Labby Labai. That confirmed it. The chi responded in the local dialect. "Not from here," clearly referred to Jai's original world. He shelved the thoughts for now. There would be time later to ponder metaphysical theories. "Let's continue your lesson," Jai said. He began teaching Labby English numerals, basic decimal structure, and arithmetic. Hours passed unnoticed as he guided her through the fundamentals. As night approached and lunar chi began to rise, Labby absorbed the teachings with hunger. Jai sensed her chi churning as understanding bloomed. Through their bond, he could feel her struggles, guiding her as needed. Her chi swirled more intensely. Labby thinks Labby understands. The Zero Master speaks of is absence. Absence that adds value by 10. A cycle born from nothingness. Jai nodded, impressed. As Labby grasped the concept, her chi surged. Her lightning essence churned, and a transformation took place. Her fur shimmered. The mark on her forehead shifted into a crescent moon. Her cultivation advanced. She had broken through to the middle of the first realm, all through the power of mathematics. He recalled the spirit's words about Labby's unique path. What would have happened if he hadn't taken her in that day? Would she have lived a simpler, safer life? He couldn't know, but he didn't regret it. What began as a plan to grow spirit herbs had led him to a devoted, intelligent junior sister. Perhaps overly addicted to pills, but dear nonetheless. Still, her reverence for him made him uneasy. He'd treated her as a child who would one day outgrow her awe of him. But the more she learned, the more her devotion seemed to deepen. He feared he was misleading her. Maybe he simply struggled to accept the role he had taken. He saw himself more as an older brother than a true master. But whether he liked it or not, he was her guide, and he needed to embrace that responsibility. He turned to the spirit herbs from Granny Lang, intent on adding them to his garden. Lighting the fire under his new cauldron, he prepared to craft the first of the 3 pills required to become a junior alchemist. "Ouch! Damn it, that burns!" Jai yelped, pulling his hand away from the flame. He channeled chi to soothe the sting, letting the energy from the cauldron dissipate. Another failure. He adjusted the temperature and pressure notes, applying salve to his fingers. This cultivation pill was infuriatingly delicate. The poison flame pill. made from 7 non-toxic herbs that combined into a poisonous result. It required extreme fire essence and precise chi pressure. Consuming it would burn away impurities with intense pain. Jai studied the recipe, then crushed herbs in a mortar and pestle. He added the mixture to the cauldron, careful to maintain the chi within the herbs. Retrieving flaming tongue grass, he held it by its base to avoid burns, added elixirs and essence water, then sealed the cauldron. The reaction was immediate. Chi surged as the herbs released their essence. Jai started the flame, adding a spirit stone to fuel it. He spread his chi evenly, aided by the small cauldron's design. Channels carved at the bottom directed heat in a circular pattern. Fire essence churned within. He stirred the mixture slowly as the liquid evaporated and essence condensed. Sweat rolled down his back as he increased flame intensity, maintaining the pressure. His chi became an extension of himself, controlling every fluctuation. The concoction thickened. The mixture resisted, the essence pushing back. Jai pushed harder. It resisted again. He held firm. Finally, the raging fire bound itself to the forming pill. Jai collapsed, drained but triumphant. He had succeeded. He opened the cauldron to inspect the pill. A molten orb with fiery lines sat inside. Something was wrong. Fire essence was leaking. He sent a probing pulse of chi. The pill exploded in a burst of fire. Heat rushed out in waves. Coughing, Jai stepped back, then laughed quietly. Another failure, but a discovery nonetheless. He noted his findings in a new section: exploding fire pills. Potential use: combat drug bombs. He smiled wryly. Not what he needed, but perhaps exactly what someone else might one day. Meanwhile, Zhu Ri stood outside the chamber door, her voice calm but edged with urgency. "Young mistress, please come out. The great master is growing concerned." She could have entered the room at any time, something both she and Yen Yun knew well. But she waited. Inside, Yen Yun sat curled in the corner of her chamber, her face buried in her knees, shrouded in silence and humiliation. Thunder crackled around her, streaks of electricity, arcing and leaving scorch marks on the floor mats. 3 days had passed, and she had yet to move from her spot. Zhu Ri's voice turned firmer. "It has been 3 days. Young mistress, you must come out." Still, Yen Yun remained silent, her mind trapped in a cycle of shame and fury. The laughter from that boy and the stunned look from the other were burned into her memory. She refused to cultivate, refused to spar, and had sent Leiyu, her spirit, away to her grandfather, choosing to wallow in disgrace rather than face the world. Shadows stirred as Zhu Ri stepped into the room. Yen Yun sensed her presence, but didn't raise her head. A sigh came from the older handmaiden as she moved closer. "Young mistress cannot stay in here forever," Zhu Ri said, her tone still calm but sharper now. "The great master has plans for you. He is concerned. You know how he gets." Yen Yun remained quiet. What was there to say? She'd made a spectacle of herself in front of 2 disciples. Word must have spread across the sect by now. Her name, once tied to prestige, now dragged through the dirt. They must be laughing at me, Zhu Ri, just like that boy did. I've humiliated myself. Grandfather would be wise to disown me. Zhu Ri shook her head, her voice steady. They haven't spoken a word. They won't, if they know it's good for them. One of them's already stealing low-grade herbs, the other's making cheap pills to sell. I can have them expelled. That caught Yen Yun's attention. She looked up, cheeks still flushed with shame. "No, don't do that. The tournament is only a few months away. If I go after them now, it might count as breaking my oath. I can't afford a setback in my cultivation." Zhu Ri raised an eyebrow. "If you're aware of that, then you must also realize that you need to make amends, with Leiyu especially. Barring your spirit from the courtyard has wounded his pride." Yen Yun huffed, her shame morphing back into anger. "He's a brute who only wants to fight and show off. He doesn't care about me or my reputation." Zhu Ri didn't flinch. "He is your companion. He warned you and you ignored him. You let your fantasies lead you astray. This shame is of your own making." The words stung more than Yakyang wanted to admit. Zhu Ri merely nodded. "I'll still look into the matter. If they're stealing herbs, they'll face consequences. That I won't budge on." With that, her figure melted into the shadows. Alone again, Yakyang remained still for a long while before slowly standing. Her thoughts lingered on the two disciples. As her embarrassment settled into something more bittersweet, she reached for her desk, pulled out parchment and a brush, and began to write. The tales of a love that wasn't, an alchemist and a thief's untold story. Elsewhere, Lu Ji stood in an open field, breathing in the crisp morning air. He held a black orb-like pill in his hand. He called them grenade pills, a name still under review, though it had beaten out Molotov pills due to their chi-triggered detonation. He'd stabilized the pills' reaction after many experiments. With a stomp, they simply smoldered. But when activated with chi, Lu Ji stepped back and sent out a pulse. A sharp explosion lit the field, flames swirling upward into a brief inferno before vanishing. He whistled. "That's stronger than before." Noting the results, he took out 2 more pills and set them together. He knew the risks. One might fire at him, but curiosity won. "Fire in the hole," he shouted, triggering them. A swirling tornado of fire erupted, then dissipated, leaving charred earth behind. He studied the results, contemplating their use. The pills were potent. Against non-cultivators, they'd be devastating. But cultivators? Less so. And then there was the ethical dilemma. Should he even be making such weapons? Weapons for the masses terrified him. He didn't want war. He wanted understanding, knowledge, and a spread of scientific thinking. Yet with progress, others would eventually rediscover these things on their own. If no one regulated them, he stood still for a long time before finally shaking the thoughts away. For now, he'd put weapon prototypes aside. He'd focus on research and nothing more. No more explosions today. Labby had been nervous enough, as it was. The next morning, Lu Ji set out at dawn. Soft hues of purple and gold touched the sky as the sun crept up the horizon. Lu Ji approached the sect gates, where a familiar figure waited. Yakyang stood in the distance, dressed simply, pale as porcelain, his long black hair blending with a large black spider perched on his shoulder. As Lu Ji drew closer, the boy bowed. This one thanked Senior for accepting this one's offer. Lu Ji awkwardly waved the title off. "Just call me Lu Ji. I'm not much older, and we're nearly the same in cultivation." "If Senior insists," the boy replied, not entirely dropping the formality. Beside him, the spider clicked its jaws. "Ji Zhu greets Senior and his spirit," it said in a high, clicking voice. Labby sparked in protest. Labby doesn't like Ji Zhu. Hiding his surprise at the spider's ability to speak, Lu Ji simply nodded. "Let's head out." They passed the gates, the walls behind them shrinking into the morning mist. After a few minutes, Lu Ji finally asked, "So, I read the mission details, but what exactly are we doing again?" "Something about a spirit herb." Yakyang nodded. "We're to gather the 12 essence lotus. It blooms once a year and has been spotted near a chi vein in the village of Taiho. But our primary task is to scout the vein and assist the villagers." Lu Ji raised an eyebrow. "Isn't a chi vein supposed to be a good thing?" "Not always," the boy replied. "The Empire cannot guard every village. Chi veins attract wild beasts and opportunistic cultivators. Without protection, the village could fall." Lu Ji nodded. That made sense. It was a harsh world. Labby wants to see the lotus and the vein. Labby chirped excitedly. Lu Ji made a mental note to keep her from eating it. "So, you know the way?" he asked. Yakyang gave a rare smile. "Ji Zhu has charted a path. The mercantile road is longer, but we'll take a shorter route through the valley." The spider clicked again. The route avoids the spirit woods. Estimated distance, 50 li, 25 kilometers? Lu Ji blinked. "That's far." "Not if we run," Yakyang replied simply. "We should reach by midday." With a resigned sigh, Lu Ji nodded. "All right then, let's go." And with that, the two disciples and their spirit companions set off down the valley path. the road to the village stretching ahead, uncertain but filled with promise. As they crested the last ridge, the village of Taiho came into view, nestled quietly within the forest. A winding dirt path led them down toward the homes scattered across the area, simple structures surrounded by sparse fields. The village was larger than Luji's original home, and its proximity to the sect and position within the 7 celestial peaks no doubt played a role in that. Walking ahead, he noted the scarce number of people visible, mostly women and children. A group of kids played in the dirt nearby, their clothes dusty and faces bright with laughter. One of the children pointed toward them, alerting the others. Their game ceased, replaced by curious, cautious eyes. From the corner of his eye, Luji noticed a woman quickly gathering the children, her body low in a deep bow, shielding them behind her. The fear in her eyes said enough about how the villagers saw cultivators. "Master is angry?" Labby asked, her voice curious. He let out a weary sigh. "Just a little, Labby. Just a little at the world." Labby didn't fully understand, but she remained quiet. Yakyang, walking beside them, glanced over. "Is something wrong, senior?" he asked. Lu Ji shook his head. "No, let's continue." They didn't have trouble finding the village chief's home. It stood near the center of the village, larger than the others, with stone foundations and sturdier walls. As they approached, a man rushed out, his face flushed and covered in sweat. "Heavens! If we had known of your arrival, we would have prepared a proper welcome for disciples of your stature," the man exclaimed, bowing deeply. He introduced himself as Guozhou, the head chief of Taiho, and ushered them inside a modest reception room. Yakyang accepted the invitation with grace, and Lu Ji followed. "The spirits have grown increasingly restless. We fear they may soon reach the village." Without a cultivator present, Guozhou trailed off, his anxiety clear. Lu Ji's expression grew grim. A high-realm spirit, unchecked, could easily destroy everything here. He asked whether the Chi vein had drawn attention before. The chief confirmed that cultivators had scouted the vein when it was first discovered, and it had remained stable for months. However, recently strange rumblings had begun, followed by the emergence of spirits. Their presence had only worsened with time. Yakyang questioned the state of the village wards. The chief explained that the ancient formations still kept weaker spirits at bay, but the tremors had caused breaches to form, making the village vulnerable. Repairs were underway, but they lacked an expert. Yakyang offered to examine the formations, earning another deep bow of gratitude. Lu Ji pressed further. Had anyone tried to investigate the source of the tremors? Guozhou hesitated before admitting that his son had led a small group to scout the area the previous day. None had returned. Yakyang frowned. Why wasn't this reported to the sect? With a pained look, the chief confessed they couldn't afford to send another request. His son had acted recklessly against his wishes, but now he begged them to intervene. Before Lu Ji could speak, a young girl stepped out. "Please bring my brother back," she pleaded, her voice trembling. Lu Ji noticed the flicker of fear in the chief's expression. It wasn't just worry for his son. He was afraid of what cultivators might demand in return for their help, especially with his daughter now present. Lu Ji nodded. "We'll find him." The chief handed over a simple map used by the miners. With no reason to delay, Lu Ji turned to Yakyang. "Let's head out." As they left, Yakyang smiled slightly. "Senior is kind." "Labby's great master is the kindest," the little rat added proudly. They made their way into the forest, following the map toward the Chi vein. The deeper they went, the more concentrated the ambient Chi became. The very air pulsed with energy. Lu Ji kept his focus sharp. There would be time for pondering later. This was no place to be distracted. Then they saw it, a large cavern entrance carved into a hillside, surrounded by spirit plants. Chi flowed out in visible waves, but curiously, no vegetation grew inside. Yakyang stepped forward. "This one will go first." A haze of Chi enveloped him as he summoned a toxic cloud. With a wave, he sent it flowing into the cave. Lu Ji stood ready, his hand near the pouch containing his exploding pills. He had developed a simple detonation mechanism, enough to prevent accidental triggering by stray chi. Suddenly, screeches echoed from within. A black swarm burst forth from a cave, bats, dozens of them, flying in chaotic formation. Lu Ji pulsed his chi in case they attacked, but the creatures veered away, scattering harmlessly. "What was that cloud?" he asked, motioning toward the dissipating haze. "Poison arts, harmless in small amounts. Just enough to flush them out. Poison arts." That certainly fit the boy. But it made Lu Jia wonder, how did poison interact with qi? Could specific chemical compounds be made more potent using spiritual energy? If so, the applications for medicine or even alchemy could be vast. They entered the cavern, the air thickening with qi as the light dimmed. Crystals jutted from the earth, unrefined and raw, their glow pulsing like veins. The purity of the qi was unmistakable. Each breath filled his dantian faster than normal. No wonder the sect valued this place. "What do you think is causing the spirit unrest?" he asked. Yakyang offered a theory. Perhaps a new deposit has emerged. Enough qi can cause tremors and drive weaker spirits away. Predators may follow the displaced. His explanation was well-reasoned, and Lu Ji was impressed. "Do you know much about medicine?" he asked. This one was trained in it. Poison arts require understanding the body. That could be useful. Lu Ji wasn't ready to share details, but he made a mental note. Su Lin's brother needed help, and someone with knowledge of medicine and qi might be a valuable ally one day. Then Yakyang stopped. "Please wait, senior. This one senses something." Lu Jia stilled. A moment later, he felt it too, a presence ahead, steeped in qi, approaching them slowly from within the cave. Silver needles shimmered in Yakyang's hands as a plume of qi unfurled around him. A sharp growl rang out, followed by a heavy thump. "Stay close, Labby. Don't rush in," Ji said, casting a firm look at the small spirit beast beside him. Labby sparked with lightning but didn't move, obedient for now. He was ready to act when he sensed the creature ahead collapse. Confused, he turned to Yakyang, who now stood over the fallen beast, brows drawn in concern. "A spirit bear. Second realm," Yakyang muttered, stepping closer, "but this isn't normal." Ji approached him. A sharp breath escaped him as he caught sight of the creature. The bear's fur had thinned, its body covered in festering wounds. Vivid green plants pierced through its flesh, spreading from its back to its skull. Roots had dug into the bear's spine, siphoning its qi. It was dying, slowly, painfully. Ji steadied his breath and knelt beside the corpse. "What's growing on it?" he asked. Yakyang studied the plant. A parasitic spirit herb. This one's never seen anything like it. The roots have grown into the spine, reaching the brain. It used the bear like a puppet, keeping it alive while feeding off its qi. Ji's stomach churned. "Gods, a spirit zombie plant. Then the villagers? If they're infected, they may still be alive," Yakyang replied. "The spread is slow." Zhu confirms it, the spider spirit chimed in. "The roots cause long-term damage, but no full takeover yet. Humans should be alive." "Let's move," Yakyang said. The two continued deeper into the winding cavern, following faint air currents to trace the main qi vein. They paused when they came upon a collapsed tunnel. Suddenly, Labby perked up. "Labby smells herb. And humans. Labby will help." "No, Labby, wait!" Ji shouted, but she had already darted into a gap between rocks. "Zhu, follow her," Yakyang commanded. The spider slipped through the same crack. Ji sighed heavily, rubbing his forehead. "Labby, stay alert and call for help if anything happens. And don't ever run off like that again," he sent sternly through their bond. "Labby will be careful," she replied cheerfully. "Great master," Labby's voice whispered into Ji's mind. "Labby thinks she might be in trouble." Labby crawled through tight gaps, her body buzzing with lightning. Her small frame trembled as she spotted a pack of wolves ahead, their bodies blooming with purple flowers. Qi trembled within her. They weren't alive. just moving corpses. She ducked into the soil as one sniffed the air. "You must better hide your chi," came a clicking voice. Zhu sat beside her, calm and unreadable. Labby looked at the spider, unease stirring in her spirit. Its chi reminded her of herbs, like her master's, but twisted unnatural. Another wolf growled. Labby tried to pull her chi in, but it kept leaking out. "Confine your chi to your core. Cut off the outward cycle." Labby didn't want to learn from a creepy spider, but fear outweighed pride. She concentrated. Chi flowed in a cycle, breath to core, then out again. She halted it, held the flow within. The leaking stopped. "Well done," Zhu said. "Let's move. There are more humans nearby." "What about the stuck one?" Zhu has informed Yakyang. "He will take care of it," the spider said. Ji sprinted through the cavern with Yakyang at his side. The link to Labby had gone quiet, but he still felt her, alive and uninjured. They burst into a large, circular chamber. The air buzzed with chi, almost painful in density. "There," Yakyang said, pointing toward a collapse wall. A man lay beneath debris. The two rushed over. Frowning, he glanced at Yakyang. "How is he?" "Alive. Minor injuries. This one will handle them." Ji stood watch, scanning the area. A growl broke the stillness. "Infected wolves. Second realm," he muttered. Yakyang stood and nodded. Together, they charged forward as the wolves lunged. Chi surged through Ji's pathways, his fists striking like thunder. He felt the rhythm in his breath and body, channeling a focused burst of power like a released valve. And the fight began. And that wraps up today's recap. For another such treat, subscribe to the channel so that I can bring more such content to you, and you don't miss the daily uploads. Do it. Subscribe. Please subscribe, and don't forget to like, comment, and share the video. See you with another such treat.